How did you unintentionally reveal your deepest romantic feelings to the absolute worst possible target? I need to get this off my chest because the fallout happened exactly 4 days ago, and my nervous system is still completely fried. My lifelong best friend Jade has an older brother named Finn. He's 29, I'm 25, and for the last 8 months, he's been single-handedly saving me from financial ruin. Last October, I bought a ridiculously dilapidated studio apartment in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago. The contractor quotes made me physically nauseous. Jade casually mentioned it to Finn, who works as a structural engineer and restores old houses as a hobby. He immediately volunteered to help me tear out the rotting drywall and lay new flooring every single Sunday, completely free of charge. At first, it was just dusty, exhausting labor. He'd show up at 7:30 a.m. with a crowbar, and we'd hardly talk over the noise of power tools. But around the 3rd month, the dynamic shifted. He started bringing me an iced oat milk matcha with exactly 1 pump of vanilla before I even asked. When winter hit and the apartment's heater broke, he drove 45 minutes through a blizzard at 11 p.m. just to bring me space heaters. He started lingering after the tools were put away. We'd sit on the paint-splattered tarp, eating cheap pizza, and talk for hours. I tried to convince myself he was just being a protective older brother, but the conversations got intensely personal. One Tuesday night, while we were patching the ceiling, he confessed his ex-fiancée had secretly drained their shared savings account of $22,000 to fund a startup with another man. He admitted he hadn't trusted anyone in 3 years. I found myself sharing insecurities I'd never muttered aloud to Jade. I became overwhelmingly obsessed with him. The guilt was suffocating. Jade and I had a strict, unspoken pact that siblings were off limits. I was terrified that if I misread his kindness, I'd detonate a 15-year friendship. So, I channeled all my agonizing anxiety into writing. I bought a cheap leather-bound notebook and treated it as a diary, pouring out every stolen glance and the absolute certainty that I was deeply in love with him. That brings us to 4 days ago. It was Jade's 25th birthday, and she organized a celebratory dinner at an upscale steakhouse downtown. I was running horribly late. In a rush, I grabbed a generic birthday card from my desk, scrawled a heartfelt message to Jade, and shoved it into an unmarked envelope. Then, I tossed it into my tote bag right next to my leather journal. The dinner was loud and chaotic. There were 12 of us crammed into a corner booth, with Finn sitting directly across from me. Around 9:30 p.m., Jade excitedly demanded to read my card first. I reached into my bag, felt the rectangular shape of the envelope, and handed it to her. I took a sip of my cocktail, smiling as she tore it open. But as she unfolded the paper, her smile vanished. Her eyes darted rapidly across the page. I leaned forward, confused, and then my stomach plummeted. I hadn't handed her a greeting card. In my frantic rush, I had blindly ripped a folded page out of my bag thinking it was the envelope. I had handed her a loose page torn out of my journal. Specifically, the page where I explicitly detailed how I wanted to wake up next to Finn for the rest of my natural life. The restaurant noise faded. Jade slowly lowered the paper and looked across the table at her brother. "You want to marry Finn?" she whispered. In the sudden lull, it sounded like a gunshot. Finn froze with his fork halfway to his mouth. Half the table turned to stare. I wanted to spontaneously combust. I pushed my chair back so violently it tipped over, crashing onto the hardwood floor. Tears sprang to my eyes. I scrambled to grab my coat, choking out a pathetic apology, preparing to sprint out the door. I expected Jade to scream or throw her drink in my face. Instead, she stood up, slammed the journal page onto the table, and marched directly over to Finn. She grabbed him by the collar of his dress shirt, hauled him out of his chair, and shoved him forcefully in my direction. "I have been watching you two make sickening hard eyes at each other over drywall dust for 8 agonizing months," Jade announced to the entire bewildered restaurant. "If you don't kiss her right now, I am legally disowning you." Finn stumbled forward, caught his balance, and looked at me. The panic in his eyes melted into a massive, breathtaking smile. Right there in the middle of a crowded steakhouse, he pulled me in and kissed me. We moved into the finished apartment together last week.